Hello and welcome to a Rivals mini guide. Today we're going to be choosing and using a controller. Because Rivals allows for universal controller input, you can use almost anything you want, from a DDR pad to the drums from Rock Band. But a majority of new players will use one of three controllers: a GameCube controller, a modern gamepad, either Switch, Xbox One, PS5, or a keyboard. Players who start on keyboards usually switch to what's called a Leverless controller as they get more invested into the game, but to start out, a keyboard is absolutely fine. You'll notice that the traditional fight stick is not commonly used. It's important to either have 2 analog sticks or significantly more than 8 buttons. In fact, your analog sticks are a big factor in choosing your preferred controller. This is because you often have to hit a precise angle with your analog stick. The gate around the analog stick is octagonal for a GameCube controller but circular for a modern gamepad. This makes it easier for a GameCube to hit perfect diagonals, but harder to hit the angles in between those perfect diagonals. This is opposite for a modern gamepad. Now you might be wondering, can I still hit those in-between angles if I don't have an analog stick? And the answer to that is no, but kind of. In-game, you can only hit the 8 angles, which are each 45 degrees away from each other. But if you use programs outside of the game, you can include modifier keys which allow you to access specific angles for each character. A Leverless controller has these modifier keys by default and a better ergonomic layout for your hands. Another factor that you should consider when picking a controller is how many buttons you need or want. You can perform the 7 actions you need to play Rivals 2 at a high level with a minimum of 4 buttons, since you can combine inputs, but ideally you would want 8 buttons so that you have 2 shield buttons and a macro for every single action. The GameCube controller only has 7 buttons, so something has to be sacrificed from the ideal setup. But if you're coming from Smash, the strong macro is something you're used to playing without, so you're going to save a button right there. The modern gamepad has 8 buttons and 2 stick clicks. You have enough to map everything to the ideal setup, but I know some people love putting their parry on a stick click. The keyboard or Leverless has more than enough buttons for whatever we need, and as we went over earlier, more of these are going to be used for movement as well. Now you might be wondering, can't I use the D-pad as 4 extra buttons? And while yes you can, you almost always want to have your left finger on the analog stick. But the real reason you don't want to is because it removes the secret best option in the game: taunting. From this information, you should be able to choose a controller. My opinion, for what it's worth, is that if you have handheld issues, the keyboard or the Leverless are the way to go, but for everyone else, to make a choice between the modern or GameCube. If you chose the Leverless or the keyboard option, I'm going to point you towards some videos, since this isn't personally what I use, but I think that there are some great videos out there that can help you get set up. But if you choose the others, then let's dive into setting up your controller pretty quickly. Setting up the left analog stick can be confusing. Your raw input, roughly where your control stick is reading, doesn't match with where the game is actually processing your input. Let me explain why. Every analog stick is going to have some error to it. The ones shown on the screen are from my Xbox One controller, which is less than 6 months old. You can imagine what a 20-year-old GameCube controller is going to look like. To combat this, we can adjust the dead zone, the sensitivity, and the hard press threshold. The dead zone is an area that helps you with getting perfect horizontal or vertical inputs. It does this by saying, if you're in this marked area, then we're going to read a perfect value for your input. If we make these too big, then we're going to lose out on those in-between angles like we were talking about earlier. But if we make it too small, then we're going to have a hard time hitting our perfect horizontal and vertical angles. Adjusting this also helps if you're experiencing controller snapback. The sensitivity can be thought of as a multiplier of your stick's input. Sometimes controllers can't reach that 100% value, so you can adjust yours so it can. Hard press threshold is the region that you need to pass within 4 frames to register a hard press, smash, or otherwise known as tap input. Adjusting this makes a hard press more or less precise. It's all up to personal preference, but if you're not consistently getting spot dodge, roll, and/or shield drop, try changing this for yourself. The right stick threshold is just the center dead zone on your right stick. You have to surpass this if you want your input to register. Finally, we're going to touch on some of the important options you have for your controls and see what the defaults are. You have tap controls for jump, strong, and wall jump. Whichever of these feels most comfortable for you, you should use. Setting your right stick to an option that enables right stick aerials is important because it's the only way that allows you to have aerials independent from your left stick. This gives you more options like retreating fair or approaching bear. D-pad movement and auto short hop aerial are for people coming from other games that have these settings and are used to them. They do limit your options, but they don't erase your muscle memory. Auto walk and double tap dash are mostly options for the leverless or the keyboard players. I really like the default setting for air grab and air parry for the same reason that I like the right stick to aerial. It's the only way to get nair and neutral special while still having control of the left stick. To finish this video, I want to take a second to acknowledge that changing your controls is only ever going to make you more comfortable. It's not going to make you better. The only way that you get better is practice and playing. Also, my obligatory shout out to the Dropdown Wiki for helping me understand some of the more nuances in your left stick setup. Be safe, be kind, and have a good day.